Okay, it is 2 o'clock. And as vice chair of the board, I will call this, or of the committee, I will call this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee on June 12th, 2024 to order. Will the secretary take roll?
Sure. Jeff Hill.
Here.
Jim Bond.
Here.
Bob Foltz.
Here.
And Sky Herrick is absent.
Sky Herrick is absent, yes.
Would it be possible to turn off the AC, please?
Yeah.
Having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear. Yeah. Okay. Oral communications. Portion of the agenda is reserved for oral communications by the public for items which are not on the agenda. Please understand that California law, the Brown Act, limits what the board can do regarding issues raised during oral communications. No action or discussion may occur on issues outside of those already listed on today's agenda. Any person may address the committee at this time on any subject that lies within the jurisdiction of the district. Normally, presentations must not exceed 5 minutes in length, and individuals may only speak once during oral communications. Any director may request that the matter be placed on a future agenda, or staff may be directed to provide a brief response. Do we have any oral communications from the public? Mr. Holloway.
I'm Bruce Holloway from Boulder Creek. Was there an announcement about the fourth committee member when I walked in? I didn't.
I'm sorry?
Was there an announcement about the fourth committee member?
No.
When I walked in, I heard you saying something.
No, we had no official announcement on that.
So he's just absent today. I guess I don't see a nameplate for the fourth committee member. So is that because he said in advance he would be here?
Yes.
I do not know.
Okay. Okay. I guess what I really want to say is I think the committee structure that this district has is kind of a joke. If I know the two board members were at the board meeting Thursday night, one of the items on the agenda was a $19 million loan. So here we have the Budget and Finance Committee discussing a $300 fee, some $300 fee. And I know it got discussed before. So I'm not even sure if this proposal is any different than what we heard a month or two ago. And then the other item is something with a price tag of up to $30,000, I guess, as I read it. I think this, I mean, what's the point of having a committee to look at these kinds of issues when there's a $19 million issue on the table? If committees made any sense for this district, this loan issue would have already been addressed by this committee, probably multiple times. So to have, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to when the management brings an issue directly to the board and when it goes through a committee. And basically the committees really aren't worth much. You know, you're not addressing the important issues, you're addressing minor issues, you're getting skipped in the decision-making process. So I hate to say it, I mean, it sounds harsh, I guess, but this committee is a joke. If you can't deal with that $19 million issue, this is a joke.
Thank you for your opinion. Do we have any other comments from the public? Okay, moving on. New business. Members of the public will give the opportunity to address each scheduled item prior to committee action. Chairperson of the committee may establish a time limit for members of the public to address the committee on agendized items. The staff wish to bring up surplus supplies and equipment policy.
Thank you, Chair. So we will have Heather go ahead and present this one, or at least start out. I may say a few words at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Good afternoon, committee. The action before you this afternoon is to receive the report and ideally recommend to the Board of Directors to approve the proposed surplus and equipment policy. On September 7th, 2020, the board adopted a policy for the disposal of surplus real property. However, that policy does not apply to the surplus of supplies and equipment. The plan was to develop a policy that prioritizes obtaining the highest value for the property. The proposed policy has checks and balances requiring the approval of the general manager or his designee. The policy also provides options for disposal of refuse being the first option considered. One option for sales used by many other government agencies is an online auction, specifically GovDeals. This method typically ensures fair market value is received for the item with a low overhead. For clarification, to eliminate a conflict of interest, employees are not able to, per this policy, are not able to claim items designated for recycle, salvage, or refuse. They may buy items for personal use only through public auctions. That concludes my presentation, and I am here for any questions.
I just wanted to comment is we discovered in the process of doing some house cleaning that we didn't really have a policy, just a systematic way of how we take care of this stuff in a way that benefits the district as much as it can. We only had the real property item that, as Heather pointed out. So, but at the same time, we don't want to spend a lot of staff time getting rid of something like maybe this, you know. We don't need to spend that much time if it's only worth maybe a quarter or a dime or something. But the idea is that we go through a systematic way of trying to get most value out of it, to recognizing that it's recyclable or charity or whatever, but and consistent with most government agencies, it's hands off for staff. The staff really can't even take something out of the garbage, and that's just to avoid any conflict of interest. It's like, oh, we're just throwing this away into my pickup that's parked behind the building or something, you know. So just saying. So that's pretty much it. We don't have a way to systematically dispose of stuff, and that's the idea.
Bob, you care to comment?
I know, I think it's great. These are things we talked about long time ago, as is the next item on the agenda. And I'm glad to see this is being brought over the finish line. It's been a long time coming. And I'm glad to see that things are being brought across the finish line. That was one of the issues we ran into before. And I certainly would like us to return to the surplus property and actually get rid of some of the surplus property that we have through the auction we talked about, which again was something we talked about many years ago. So this is great. I like the idea of keep the overhead low on staff time, right? Get to a point and get rid of it as quickly as possible if it's no longer of use to us. So big thumbs up from my point of view.
Thank you. Jim? Any
Same
comments?
here. I read it thoroughly with a critical eye. I couldn't find anything to criticize. It's made me a little sad, but I think recognizing that people's time is worth money, and I think the method you've proposed, I completely good thing.
Okay, I concur with both of my fellow committee members on that. Do we have comments from the public on this particular item?
I thought the $30,000 seemed kind of high to me. Maybe it should be 7,500, which would be a quarter of it. It's not clear to me if an item's going to be disposed of and it's worth 25,000, is the board even going to get a report on that? I guess in the interest of transparency, I think we all need to know if an item on the order of 25,000 was happening. And I guess it's not clear to me from the policy. How will the board even find out about it if it's below $30,000? And then I'm also kind of wondering, what are these things that are close to $30,000 that the district might be getting rid of? So it just seems like kind of a high amount to me, maybe 7,500 to be better.
Well, I think the 30,000 is because that's consistent with the general manager's purchasing authority,
Yes,
right? So
yes, that was my understanding.
that was
also.
probably why, I mean, that was what I took it to mean,
Yes.
is consistent, which I thought was okay. With respect to reports, interesting, but again, in the interest of keeping the overhead low, most of this stuff is going to be in a category of we're going to rely on staff to do the best
Mhm,
job possible.
yes. Jim?
If the staff follows the rules they've laid out, I think it's completely acceptable. And frankly, I don't want to know the detail.
Yeah.
I mean, we're start talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, then yeah, maybe, but
Sure, I could add one example of.
Please
we
do.
were pushing out meters that we were removing as scrap, and I said, really? They
Interesting.
still work?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody wants them. Admittedly, everybody's going to smart meters, but maybe there's some place that wants them. Put it on an auction.
Yeah.
And also don't destroy them when you're yanking them out. Don't just chuck them in a bin as if they are scrap metal.
Mhm.
And of course, that's, so that's the kind of idea. And yes, I thought we had in here somewhere, but of course we would, of course, the board at some point would find that out in a report that if we, if there was surplus stuff, it would at least come up in a line item in the financial report.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, with 8,000 meters times even $50, that's
That could be a substantial amount of money.
40,000 bucks. Assuming they're all working, of course, but
right.
working at some level.
Yes, well, and that could be an interesting question about what the limit is, because
Buyer beware, man.
well, but also, 8,000 meters, you might have 50 different sales there
Yeah, that's true.
at $1,000 here, $1,800 there, something like that. So, but I think this is something where we do not want to have the board spending a whole lot of time on surplus worn out equipment.
Right.
Okay, any further comments on this? Any further comments from the public? Bob, would you like to make a motion that we recommend this to the board?
Oh, sure. Let me go back to that here. Do we have that? I move that the Budget and Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Directors that it approve the proposed surplus supplies and equipment policy.
I second.
Okay.
Call the roll?
Jessup,
Yes.
Jim Bond,
Yes.
Bob Fultz,
Yes.
and Sky Herrick is absent.
Okay, the second item on the new business agenda is meter review fees. And I'm not sure that this qualifies as new business because we have discussed it in the past, but it is still open.
Right.
So,
Right, that's, okay. Yes, so thank you, Chair, and
yes.
Heather will also be presenting this item, and I may have a few comments in the end.
Thank you. Thank you, committee. The action before you is to receive the report and ideally to recommend to the Board of Directors to approve the proposed meter review fee. On May 8th, this item was presented to the committee, where the committee requested additional information and provided suggestions, including the implementation of a tiered level of fees based on complexity, and that the fee be waived for CZU fire rebuilds. Committee also requested additional details about the time spent on individual parcels. That information is not available. The fee must be based on cost to perform the service. The calculations were done using two different methods. The first, total cost divided by number of parcels, and the second, 2 hours of staff were 2 hours of staff time were assumed. Both methods of calculation calculated a fee of about $300. Staff reached out to Soquel Creek Water District and Scotts Valley Water District. The Soquel Creek, Creek charges a $300 non-refundable fee, where Scotts Valley charges $125 application fee. After further evaluation, staff has determined that a single rate for the review fee is the most efficient way to administer the process while ensuring that the district recovers the cost of staff time. Staff is still proposing the $300 per request, with parcels related to the CZU fire rebuilds be waived. That concludes my presentation, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. So I just wanted to comment one thing. Yes, we did bring this to the committee before. There were the 2 comments that we waived the, CZU fire folks of any fees. And then to look at whether we could tier the fee in some way. And while we could do the former, that seems reasonable. The latter, it didn't make sense for staff to be chasing that kind of small amount. It's sort of, somebody's coming to us, we're spending that time, we do need to kind of charge for it. And that is also, it eliminates sort of the idea of, like, what I'd say is like a nuisance ask, is people ask these things, but then they don't really ever follow up and develop, and maybe they see a price tag, they realize, okay, they are going to develop, or they do want to set a meter, they're not just questioning it. So anyway, we're happy to answer any questions. I have Joel here who developed the calculations, etc. And of course, Heather, myself. Thank you.
Jim, do you have any comments or thoughts?
No, I'm the one that brought up the issue of tiers. I'm assuming, I'll just kind of repeat what I think I heard, which is, for expediency's sake and just to simplify staff efforts, it's just better to use an average rather than to tier it. And I said last month that if that's what you guys determine, that I would vote for it. Am I right in assuming that
That's essentially it.
Okay.
Bob, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Well, given that you've talked about it once before, and I'm kind of bungee jumping in here to the process in the middle of it, I'll try to keep it brief. I guess my concern would be where on the spectrum most of these requests come from. Are they at the 12-hour type place? Or are they more at the, an hour or 2 type place? I'm assuming, here's the thing. Soquel Creek and Scotts Valley have very different geographical issues than we do. And not the least of which is the county doesn't want any more building going on up here, period, end of story, which is why they're torturing the CZU fire victims through their torture chamber at the building department. So, we have issues that they don't have to deal with in terms of figuring where things are, particularly for some of this infill and ADUs and that sort of thing. I'm sure that that's a lot of what's happening here. So are most of the applications in that relatively hour or 2, or are they mostly in the 12 hour?
Yeah, we gave that maximum and minimum, minimum being 30 minutes, maximum being 12 hours. From my experience, I think the average number of hours that we calculated coming out to about 2 hours of total staff time, that seems pretty
Yeah, but I'm asking more about the median, right? Which is a slightly different thing.
Sure, I guess the median might be a little lower than that.
A little lower than that? Okay.
Well, just because right, there'll be fewer of those 12-hour ones, so they do spike up the average a little bit. So.
Okay. I think people wanting to build up here, the first thing they ought to do before they get a will serve letter is figure out whether the county's going to give them the time of day. And we might want to give them that advice at the start to basically say, hey guys, this is probably better worth your while if you work something through the county. Because even if we're recovering our costs, there's still an opportunity cost here for doing this work. And I'd rather not do the work at all if there's not a relatively high probability that there's going to be a possibility of a development. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Those are good points. I think you've raised some real good points there. Any comments from the public on this particular proposal?
Karen Brown, north of Boulder Creek. And I'm just wondering, where are these 59 homes that are wanting a new meter? Because if we have no building, where are these homes?
I mean, a majority of these would come from people who maybe own a parcel, that doesn't currently have a property on it. Or even, they don't have to own the parcel, they could be looking to buy a parcel and build a new home on it. And one of the
There's a
first steps.
moratorium that we don't get new build.
I-
They're not allowing, Santa Cruz County is not allowing us to have new builds. And if we do an ADU on our property, you are now gonna charge us at the 1-inch commercial rate.
Well, for the ADU, that's dependent on the size of the home and stuff, but I wasn't aware of any blocking of new builds. I guess we've been mostly getting CCU stuff, but.
No, so, but remember the 59 units is this is past, this is an average of what we did in arrears.
And yeah, it includes, CCU rebuilds, it includes, people remodeling or adding an ADU or something, so. Any forms of that, you just kind of the total number.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct in saying it's not 59 new homes in the district.
I don't think there's a formal moratorium. I think it's more the county planning department basically has a very strong informal moratorium.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Drag your feet and
Right,
go
yeah.
slow.
And put all sorts of requirements on top of it that makes construction of the home completely unaffordable for whatever budget you have. I mean, I've heard estimates of $1,000 a square foot. I mean, think about that, just astounding.
Yeah, on that subject, for fun, I looked at what it would cost for me to put an ADU in my unit, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
Just the permit stuff is
Right.
$25,000 to $50,000.
Right, I mean, that basically is, we don't want you building.
Right.
So, so I'm actually stunned that you're having that many. Hopefully they are mostly the CZU. And we do need to make sure we take care of those folks, yes. Okay.
Okay, Jim, would you make a motion on this?
Yeah, I motion that we accept that proposal as written.
Second,
Jeff Hill?
Excuse me, may I make a friendly amendment? That we recommend to the Board of Directors to approve the proposed meter review fee.
yes,
Agreed.
yes,
Ready. Jeff Hill,
yes.
Bob Foltz,
Yes.
Jim Bond,
Yes.
and Sky Herrick is absent. And the motion passes.
Okay. We have no unfinished business on the agenda. There is a link in the agenda to the previous Budget and Finance Committee meetings. I would like to make one quick announcement if I can, and that is that I have directed staff to place an item on the next agenda to select a new chairman for the committee.
Got it.
Are there any final questions from the public or from the board? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, thank you. everybody.
That was fast.
Yes.
Thank you.